Hello and welcome. Today I'd like to do a quick chat on To Rise Again at a Decent Hour by Joshua Ferris. This is the most recent book that I finished, and following this chat I will also touch base briefly on what I'm currently reading, as well as do a drawing to see which of my priority reads the universe will decide for me to read next. But yeah, To Rise Again at a Decent Hour. This was originally published in 2014, and it was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2014. It did not ultimately win, but it was at least did make the shortlist. And speaking of book prizes, a little later today, a couple of hours from now, I'm going to be meeting Peg, the book prize addict, for a late lunch. So Peg, the book prize addict, is in DC for a book signing event, and we have decided to meet up for a late lunch. So it'll be the first time that I'm meeting a booktuber in person. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I do plan on attending the book signing tomorrow as well. And that I'll probably do a video. I might do a video about that. And anyway, more details will be forthcoming about that. But back to Rise Again at a Decent Hour by Joshua Ferris. Yeah, this came on my radar to read. I believe I heard about this book, or it got on my radar from the channel Run Right Reads. I believe she read this and did a video mentioning it last year, and so I put it on my to-read list. I put it on my want-to-read list, but then it got added to my priority reading list for this year, mainly because of the topic of identity. My priority reading list is grouped around themes this year, and one of the themes I was interested in reading about was identity. And so just by hearing the description from Run Right Reads, as well as reading the description, it sort of sounded like this was going to fit that criteria, and it really did, in a different way than I had anticipated. So what it's about, we have a dentist, a fairly successful dentist in New York City. His name is Paul O'Rourke, and he is a man who's sort of disconnected and alienated, I think, from society. He has a successful dental practice, but his life seems to be just sort of drifting in a sense where he's not real connected to anything. He has several office workers who are characters, in the book. His ex-girlfriend, Connie, is mentioned quite a bit in the book. And just to give you an idea about his what I'm talking about when I say alienation, is that he doesn't, his practice has no ties to the internet, like that. His dental practice does not have a website. He doesn't have any kind of Facebook. He does participate in some forums, chat forums, I guess, for the Red Sox baseball team, of which he is a big fan, but nevertheless seems to get bothered when they win. He's also a dentist, who's concerned with mouth care, yet he smokes. He is an atheist who is drawn to religion, and a little bit more about that here in a bit. But so he's this sort of bundle of contradictions. I think, maybe is descriptive of a lot of the alienation that people feel in the 21st century, where they don't really feel connected to anyone. He tries to get connected, through really his girlfriends to a family. His family, he did not grow up in a particularly happy family. He wasn't, there was some tragedies early on in his life with his father, and then he was raised kind of by a single mother, and I think there was always a struggle for money and whatnot. And so then when he became an adult, through various girlfriends, one girlfriend came from a strongly Catholic family, and he tried to connect with them and bond with them, and that, didn't meet with much success. And then Connie was from a Jewish family, and he sort of did the same thing there. Although he recognizes that he's trying too hard to connect with them, he just can't seem to help it. And he just thinks that, I think, that if there was some kind of way, he looks for a way, like he looks at other people and he wonders how they're able to go about their life, and appearing to him to be so connected to each other and so connected to what's going on in the world and so connected to society, because he doesn't get that. He doesn't have that. And there's a really cool scene, relatively early in the book, where Connie, his ex-girlfriend, is putting on lotion, and he describes how she puts on the lotion, and then this is a satire. It's quite witty. Most of it, or at least the first 2/3 of it, are really funny in places. And this I thought was a real amusing kind of part where she's puts on lotion. He describes these kind of motions that she goes through putting on lotion. And then there's a quote from that part of the book that I thought really was telling about how he felt alienated from society. And if he could just find whatever the key is of being able to do, then he would fit in and he would feel connected. And the quote is this. So is, if I could just become a lotioner, I thought, how many other small pleasurable gestures made throughout the day might click into place for me, and all that exile, all that alienation and scorn simply vanish. So, he thinks if he could just get rituals, if he could just get just a simple pleasure routine, of something like lotioning his hands, then, it might that might cause another thing to lock into place, and then ultimately he would feel connected. So I thought that was cool. But what ends up happening in this dental practice is one day, couple of different things right at the very beginning. He has this really eccentric patient. This patient comes in, doesn't want any anesthesia, has some sort of bad tooth thing going on. He goes, "Are you sure you don't want any anesthesia?" And the patient's like, "Yeah." And then so he starts working on the patient, and that guy, the patient, moans and then keeps like moaning, and so the dentist is like telling him, "Well, you're moaning. Are you sure you don't want some pain medication?" And so finally the guy does take the pain medication, but as he's leaving, he sort of makes this cryptic remark, and the remark is, "I'm an he said. "That's why I'm going to Israel. I'm an and so are you." So this patient, he had been leaving. He said, "Well, I'm not going to see you again because I'm leaving. I'm going to Israel." And then as he's leaving, he says, "I'm an he said, "That's why I'm going to Israel. I'm an and so are you." So, when I was reading the book, I actually highlighted this sentence because I thought, I don't know what that means. U-L-M. It's a city in Germany. Now, where I'm from, just a little earnestly Eston trivia, where I'm from, I'm originally from Arkansas. And so in my county, there had in the, 19th century had quite a bit of German immigration. And so there were at least 3 different little towns. One is the biggest town in the county, called Stuttgart, Stuttgart from Germany. And then sort of not far down the road is another town called But in Arkansas, where I'm from, this is actually pronounced Stuttgart for Stuttgart and Ullum. So Ullum. So whenever I read this quote, I read it, "I'm an Ullum," because that's how I pronounce U-L-M, Ullum. And I was actually born in Stuttgart. So that's a little earnestly Eston trivia. I just thought I would throw that in for free, no charge. But okay, back to this. So yeah, I'm an Ullum, he said. "That's why I'm going to Israel. I'm an Ullum, and so are you." So then the rest of this book explains this journey. What ends up happening is, in addition to the website, after this cryptic patient comes in, this website gets built for his dental practice, and he didn't do that. He didn't authorize it, and so he starts trying to chase down who built this website, and then a Facebook page gets created. Then posts to his baseball chat communities appear in his name. So there's this online identity of Paul O'Rourke and the dentist, and he doesn't know where it's coming from or who this is. So I'm not going to give that away, because this exploration into what is an Ullum and who is creating this online persona of him, he strikes up a conversation with this person who's creating this persona. And, it's just, it winds up being really interesting. I read some reviews that say the first 2/3 of the book are better than the last third. And the first 2/3 of the book really it really was more funny. And then the last third of the book was a little bit less funny, because we were actually at that point, the book has kind of taken a different turn, and I don't want to give that away again because of spoilers. So, this book, thoughts about it. I thought, when I was reading it, it really read to me, it felt like a social commentary. It really felt like early on in the book, like a sort of a person, the experience of a lot of people in the 21st century, where we are now, of this alienation and not belonging. And then, but as the book wore on, it really became more of I think a study of identity, and particularly group identity, and a group identity surrounding really religion. So religion really played the religion and lack of religion, belief system, how people can organize their identities around belief systems, around religious belief systems, and then those people who don't share that, who do not come from a religious tradition that is one of their identity, sources of identity, then what happens to them, and so that's sort of this book explores that topic. And that's Paul, the Apostle Paul, Saint Paul. I think that the main character Paul, I think that the choice of his name by the author might not have been an accident, because Paul, the Saint Paul, is actually mentioned fairly frequently throughout at least the last half of the book. So another question that the book asks is, can a person without religious belief accept things on faith? Because part of belief, part of immersing yourself in a group is sort of embracing the irrational, or embracing something that's not scientific, or it's an emotional response, or this is not just religion, I don't think, but any sort of belief system and any sort of group dynamic requires a certain amount of suspension of suspension of criticism and an acceptance of faith. So that idea is explored. And then finally, before I go, I wanted to. The baseball is discussed quite a bit in this book, because, like I said, he is a Red Sox fan. There's an awesome quote on baseball. So before I end the chat, I wanted to read this quote out. So it's about baseball. Baseball is the slow creation of something beautiful. It is the almost boringly paced accumulation of what seems slight or incidental into an opera of bracing suspense. The game will threaten never to end, until suddenly it forces you to marvel at how it came to be where it is, and to wonder at how far it might go. It is the drowsy metamorphosis of the dull into the indescribable. Love that quote for about baseball. I think that's so cool. So I'm going to end the chat with that. I did enjoy reading this. I wasn't really sure. This was an iffy pick for me because it got really mixed reviews. But for me, it wound up being really a page turner, figuring out what an Ulam was, as well as who was behind this website. And then the last third, it is really deciding what he's going to make of this information once he figures it out. And so I was really kind of on the edge of my seat to see how he ended up responding. So anyway, I'll end the chat with that. What I am currently reading is The Library at Night by Alberto Manuguel. I am about a third of the way through this and absolutely loving it. These are different chapters. Each chapter is a different aspect of libraries, and so it's just a beautifully done meditation on libraries, and a lot of good information in there. I'm just finding it wonderful, so loving that. So what is my next read going to be? Let's let the randomness of the universe decide what my next read off of my priority reading list is going to be. It is going to be The Razor's Edge. Cool. The Razor's Edge. This is by Somerset Maugham. Let me see here if I can get the cover really quickly for you. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it, but I'll give it a try. Since Kindle changed its format a little bit, it's a little bit harder for me to find sometimes my electronic book covers. And The Razor's Edge, I'm not even sure that I have a really good book cover for this one, because some of the electronic editions, especially some of these older works like this, do not actually, in the e-edition, yeah, this is one. I thought this was one of them. This is a vintage ebook. They do not have covers whenever you open them up. I will... Probably when I do the chat, I'll try to find download a picture of the cover instead of trying to open the book itself. But yeah, The Razor's Edge. Looking forward to this. This was in my priority reading criteria theme of seekers. So I love books about seekers, and I'm really anxious to get to that. So I will be getting to that following finishing up The Library at Night. So until next time, take care. Bye.